Hi YouTube, this is Evie. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today I wanted to talk about more with safe words. I know that I have been talking about safe words a lot, but as I will continue to say, I am really trying to lay down a lot of groundwork for being able to do more advanced BDSM topics, and safe words are definitely one of the fundamental things to know about. And the reason why I want to explore more with safe words here is partly because of some of the questions I've been getting, but then also some of the discussions I've been having in my Discord chat. If you guys don't know what that is, Discord is like a Skype or Kick group. It's originally designed for gaming groups to be able to chat together while they're playing games, but it's one of the tier rewards for my Patreon, and we just have really cool discussions on there, and a lot of times I get inspiration for videos based on conversations that we've had. And the thing that I've noticed that has come up a lot in regards to safe words is people not necessarily really knowing how to pick the right one, or feeling pigeonholed into only using one safe word, and feeling like they can't use the traffic light system, or that their dom isn't respecting their safe words. And in particular, the scenario that ends up coming up a lot is, well, we were doing a scene and I wasn't having a good time, I was feeling bored, it wasn't going heavy enough for me, I needed to slow down, but we only use red, or we only use papaya, which is our safe word, and there's not really a lot of flexibility with that system in particular. And something that I've learned is, like most elements of kink, figuring out what safe words work for you is a process of evolution and depends on the types of scenes that you like. And a lot of times people will start out with just one safe word, and that's totally fine. That works for a lot of people. A lot of people will go their entire kink life, their entire partnership with one person, only having one safe word, only having safe word, red, whatever happens to be their safe word. It just means stop the scene, and that's it. But that doesn't work for everybody, and I want to make sure that people know that there are other options out there if you're somebody who needs to be more communicative in scenes. And now, before I really get into the meat of today's video, I do first want to mention that I have filmed a video previously, which I will link down below if you guys haven't seen it yet, where I talk about safe words in relation to plain English communication, which I think is a very important conversation to have. Because basically what safe words are a way of reducing ambiguity in communication, because words like ow, that hurts, even stop or no in BDSM can mean that the scene is supposed to continue, and they don't necessarily mean that the scene needs to stop. So people came up with safe words as a way to be able to say those things, which are oftentimes very impulsive or reflexive to certain things that happen, like receiving pain, without necessarily, accidentally causing somebody to stop a scene when they don't need to, or somebody assuming those words mean that things are going well and just continuing. So that's basically how we got safe words, more or less, was to reduce that ambiguity. Plain English communication is still something I think that people should be using in scenes when possible, because in my mind, a good dominant should realize that I'm having an asthma attack, even if it's not yellow or it's not red, should still be a reason to stop a scene or check in, and not part of the ambiguous language that sometimes happens in kink scene. Like, that's a pretty clear way of communicating, but not everybody is going to have the ability to stop and fully say, I'm feeling bored, I am feeling a cramp in my leg, I am feeling too cold. And so I think something that's great, so you can have more communication in your scenes while still, leaving the power and the authority in the top and the dominant in the scene. And it's also something that's great, so you have the opportunity for them to come to you, and especially if you're going into subspace or something like that, you don't have to worry about trying to form a whole sentence that explains exactly what's happening. You just have a quick way of communicating what's going on, and a way of being to, on the fly, change elements of the scene that need to be changed. I would say that safe words kind of come in tiers, almost in terms of how, what level of communicative you're on in the safe word setup that you have. I would say base level 1 is just having a safe word. So that would be red, stop, that kind of thing. It means just end the scene. I'm having a panic attack. I'm not doing okay. This needs to stop. And that's the only thing that you have. So the only option you have is keep going or stop the scene. And that doesn't always work in every particular situation. So the next tier above that is called the stoplight system. This is typically red, yellow, and green. Red means the same thing as it would in the previous tier, which is stop, the scene is going badly, I'm having a panic attack, whatever, we need to stop. Yellow is a little bit harder to define because so many people use it different ways. So if you do want to use this system, make sure that whoever you are playing with is on the same page as you with what yellow means. Yellow could mean stop and slow down. Yellow could mean check in with me. Yellow could mean I'm starting to go into a bad headspace. We need to change something. But generally speaking, it's something where we're not quite to red yet, but we may be heading that way, so something needs to be altered. And then the last one is green. Green is something that people use in a couple different ways. A lot of people will use it when they're playing with new partners as a way of like checking in. So they'll ask their partner, you know, what light are you at? And green is a way of saying, okay, we're good, everything's going great, you can keep going. Green can also mean go faster, go harder. Green can mean, you know, I'm just in a good headspace or I'm heading towards subspace, things like that. But I would say there's also ways that you can add on top of this system. And it's not something that I've seen a lot of people talk about it, which is why I want to go over it here. So besides just having one word or the stoplight system, you can actually add additional colors to your stoplight system because, hey, BDSM is a fantasy world, and why should we just have to stop at 3 colors on our stoplight system? You can add a ton of different things. So for example, you could use something like gray. Gray could mean I am starting to feel bored with this scene. I need something to change. I need more. I need harder. I need faster. Now, a lot of people do kind of use green in the same way, but I think it communicates the idea just a little bit differently. Green is generally used when like the scene itself and like what exactly is happening is good and you can ramp it up a little bit and it's more like positive, I guess, whereas gray is something I would more see like a heavy bottom using who is maybe into like pretty heavy play and kind of gets bored with just regular spankings or something and it's like, I need this to be like completely ramped up and like completely altered and need to be like at a completely different level from what it's at right now. You can also use blue. I would personally use blue to communicate something about an emotional state. So for an example, you could use blue to communicate that you're maybe going into a negative emotional state. Maybe you're starting to get upset. You think you're going to start crying. You're, you know, bringing up emotions in some way. This can mean that your dominant or your partner may need to check in with you. This could mean that you are maybe wanting to go into that particular space because there are people who use BDSM as a way to work through and process negative elements of emotions, which is fine. It's just a way of communicating with your partner. Hey, I'm starting to get kind of emotional. This is starting to get pretty intense for me. And it's especially useful if you're doing a scene where that wasn't necessarily the intention. If you're just supposed to have like a nice casual flogging and you're starting to feel a lot of emotions, being able to say, hey, I'm kind of going into a different headspace here. You know, let's work through that. You could also use orange or pink as an in-between stop between yellow and red. So this is something where it's getting to the point where like, no, seriously, I'm about 5 seconds away from saying red. This isn't just a like, I'm starting to go that way. It's a I'm very nearly there type of situation, which can also be useful because you can use this term when you still think the scene can be saved, but it's more severe than yellow might be because you're saying, hey, I am like really close to my edge here. Something about this needs to change drastically, very quickly, or I am going to have to say red. You can also use other colors like, say, purple to communicate that you are going into subspace or top space. Again, this is just a really great way of being able to quickly communicate what is going on with your head, especially if you're playing with a new partner, once again, who doesn't necessarily understand all of your little quirks and ways that you tell people that, hey, you're getting into a certain headspace. So you can say purple to let somebody know that you're starting to go into subspace, and it may be a good opportunity, once again, for somebody to check in with you and make sure that everything is okay, make sure that you are actually prepared to go into that headspace, because once you say purple, it's kind of like saying, I'm slowly starting to lose control, I'm starting to go more into subspace. that can usually mean it's great and you're like supposed to go there, but especially if, again, you weren't thinking you were gonna go into that headspace, it's a great way to communicate what's going on so your partner knows what's happening, especially if you are in a position or doing a type of play where they can't easily see your face or your facial expressions, to be able to tell that's the direction that you're heading. Now, with all of these colors that I've just mentioned and some of the suggestions I have given, don't think that you have to stick to any one particular combination of color with communication action that you need to do. These are just examples from people that I have talked about with this, and examples, of course, from my own play that I do and research that I did online. Whatever color makes sense to pair with whatever phrase works for you and your partner is great. If you want gray to mean that you're heading into subspace, that's fine. If you want purple to mean, hey, check in with me, I'm about to go and say red, any combination that works for you is awesome. These are just purely suggestions and how I have personally connected those phrases with different colors. Again, it is totally and completely up to you. And of course, definitely feel free to use whatever works for you. Like I said at the beginning of this video, safe words and figuring out what works for you in BDSM is a constant process of evolution and is a constant process of revising and figuring out what works for you and for your partner. So if you have one thing that you in particular are hitting a wall against that you're having trouble communicating, assign a color to that so that way you can quickly say it and let your partner know what's going on. If you have one particular, thing that is you're just completely stuck on and you need a way to talk about it, connect it to a color. And hopefully this will be a good way for those of you who want to be able to be more communicative in scenes, but don't want to take away authority from the dominant, don't want to seem like you are topping from the bottom. You have more ways to do that, and you have more ways of communicating that are sort of in line with what is generally considered acceptable in the larger BDSM community as not topping from the bottom. Because one of the things that a lot of people do run into is feeling like they're being too communicative in scenes can sometimes come across like you're topping from the bottom, like you're naggy, like you're micromanaging. Really, everybody has different needs for their communication, especially if you're somebody who's playing with a new partner, who's anxious, who's doing a new kind of play, who needs scenes to go in a very specific direction. So if you're trying to specifically get to a certain headspace or you have a certain goal in mind, communicating more should not be seen as something that is detrimental to a BDSM relationship. It should not be seen as taking away authority, but this is just a way of kind of hopefully circumventing some of that baggage that you may associate with just, constantly going back and forth with your partner. And especially if you are going more into a subspace type of direction, it's going to be hard to get at those complete phrases anyways. So hey, colors are another great way of getting around that. So anyways, that is really all I wanted to cover in today's video. If you guys have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them down in the comment section below. If you guys want to learn more about safe words, communication, and BDSM relationships, I will put links to some related videos in the description box. If you haven't already, I do recommend subscribing because I make videos twice a week. And finally, if you did enjoy this video, I would highly encourage you to check out my Patreon. I have tons of great rewards, extra videos, exclusive chats, things like that for people who do support me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. Your support is always completely overwhelming and amazing. I would not be able to do this without you guys. So thank you so much for you guys who are already on my Patreon, and for those of you who are thinking about joining, highly recommend it. But anyways, that is where I'm going to leave everything for today. So until I see you next time, have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.